Right, so welcome to the Financial Intelligence Bootcamp part number 3. We're going to be looking at a very interesting topic, which is how to manage your money. Very, very important topic because pretty much I believe most people's financial situation can be sorted out or rectified or corrected once we know how to do this. We've never been taught how to do this before. Most people, schools don't teach it. At universities certainly don't teach it. Your banks won't teach it properly. And there's a lot more to be able to manage your money than just the basics, which you've probably heard or seen on TV or on a telephone call with your bank or debt collector. So I'm going to go through a bit more information about how to properly manage your money and why it's very important. We're going to look at the common problems and identifiers. What does it mean to manage your money properly? Managing your money for a surplus, which is really my goal to show you how that works today, and being able to handle your emotions, okay, and then also looking at the bigger picture as well. So, common problems and identifiers. What we've mainly noticed when people are not able to manage their money properly is, number one, is due to, as I already said, lack of a financial education. No one actually teaches or has taught. Even parents won't know to teach their children properly because they haven't been taught themselves. They just know what they know. So it means to borrow, have an overdraft, or don't borrow at all, but just struggle, and not know how to divide their money in the right way to get through the week, the month, the year. Then it does cause massive problems. Okay. Number two, understanding what a budget is in the first place. Okay, that's vitally important. Effectively, you have no plan to manage your money in the right way. Okay, and if you have no financial plan, then obviously prepare to fail financially. You've probably heard that before. All right, in a different guise, and also common identifiers of why people are struggling financially with regards to managing their money, which I'm going to talk about in a separate sections shortly, is being able to budget for a surplus. You pretty much have more month left. Okay, if you get paid monthly or weekly, monthly, you have more month left than you do money, and there's a reason behind that. Well, there's two reasons behind that. Number one, which I'm talking about right now, is because your budget is a problem. Number two, most people, it's because they don't have enough money in the first place. So how do you turn that around if you're not able to get another job or do any more overtime? How can you increase your income? Okay, so we're going to talk about that as well. Right, so you've probably seen or recognized scenes like these with partners carrying on. The amount of marriages that are broken up or relationships that break up because of lack of financial discipline or money issues is absolutely amazing. So these scenes are probably quite familiar to you, possibly, if you're watching this. How do we turn this around so that we're smiling and we're happy and we're not worrying about something like money, but we're more focused on enjoying our lives and doing the things that we want to do? How do we turn that around? Yeah, well, what we need to do is understand, number one, what it means to actually manage money in the first place. So, as I alluded to before, being able to manage money, and I'm going to change the color of my pen just to make it a bit easier for you to see. Being able to manage money is having a plan for your finances. Okay, you need to basically apportion money for various aspects of your life, whether that be for savings, whether that be for paying your bills, whether that be for having fun, going out, school clothes for your children, even as simple as having fun if you're having a party, or you like to have your drink here and there, or you like to go to the movies here and there. That needs to be planned. And I know it sounds very boring, but if you're not able to plan that, then if emergencies come about or you want to do things, you dip into money that is not supposed to be used. In other words, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, or even worse, you're borrowing either from the bank or from friends and family because you're struggling, and it just builds up and builds up and builds up and gets worse and worse and worse to the point that we're not too sure where to do or what to do, in our backs are between a rock and a hard place. It's because of lack of planning. All right, so effectively, understanding what it means to manage your money is to have a plan around your finances. How are you going to divide your finances? If you get paid monthly, how are you going to portion it the right way? What do you do first? How do you do it? Who do you pay first, etc., so that you will always have money in your pocket and you'll always be able to do what you need to do, and to be able to increase the money that's coming in the first place. All right, so let's look at that in more detail because it is vitally important. Now, I've learned this from a man called Robert Kiyosaki in terms of how to budget your money for a surplus, and I really encourage you to read all of his books if you can, and I'll recommend them towards the end of this video. Most of us will budget in the wrong way, and we budget for a deficit. So let me explain what that is first. All right, so budget for a deficit. All right, so effectively what we do, as soon as money comes in, you get paid. As soon as that comes in, let's say it's £1,000. All right, you make sure the bills come out automatically, okay, and that get paid first. Then you're left with some form of money afterwards, and then you're trying to struggle and survive on what's left. Yeah, now I wouldn't even call it a disposable income because you probably haven't factored in your food shopping. You probably haven't factored in any kind of emergencies that, unforeseen circumstances that may come up. You haven't factored in maybe things like your travel. You haven't factored in things like just odd things that may turn up in a month that you planned for, but you just don't know how you're going to go about doing it. How you're going to go about paying that bill. How you're going to go about budgeting for that expense that comes up. It's just like things like Christmas. It comes every year, so you budget for that, or you're supposed to. Not that surprise like, oh, how am I going to pay for presents? So I'm going to borrow. That's not the right way of doing things. Birthdays, we know they come every year. How are you going to budget for that? If you know you want to buy a gift for that person, are you going to dip into a pot of money that doesn't really exist for birthday presents? This is what I'm talking about. So most people budget for a deficit, and they leave themselves absolutely dry, with nothing to fall back on, and have no ability to increase themselves or get into a situation where they can have some more money for themselves before they pay anybody else. And this is where we need to get to. So let me explain how to budget for a surplus and why this will make such a massive difference. Just by following these basic rules, without having to do any more hours at work or in your job or your business, without having to borrow any money, without having to use these payday loans or these short-term loans or high interest rip-offs. Being able to budget for a surplus goes as follows. So I'm going to break it down for you. And it's not just Robert Kiyosaki, it's people like T. Harv Eker. Again, with the jam and jars example, exactly the same thing, being able to budget for a surplus. I'll keep it really, really simple. So, ideally, you should pay yourself first. All right? And I'm going to put a figure of 20% of whatever that income comes in. All right? Once you do that, and I'll explain why you should pay yourself first in a second. Once you pay yourself first, put some money aside for obviously your utilities. What's that? Your gas, electric, yeah, your food shopping, any other kind of regular bills that come up. However, you have to limit that budget. So it could be, say, 50%. You're being generous of your income covers all bills. Rent, mortgage. And even out of this list, Now, you should prioritize what is the most important. So obviously, make sure you pay your rent first. Make sure you pay your gas and electric and your water, so you have that. Make sure you have money for food. And then obviously, things like council tax or, property tax, based on wherever you live, goes in that pecking order. But make sure you prioritize what goes out first, what needs to be paid first. If you're struggling financially, having direct debit may not be the best way. And, they may say to you, or automated payments, you must make payments using automatic methods. That's not the case at all. All right. It's not law that you must make payments using direct debit. You can put yourself in control by making payments, either calling up by phone or paying by standing order. So you're in control of who gets what, when, and when they get it, so that you are in full control of your finances and not anybody else. Okay, that's something you could possibly do if you're struggling financially. So once you've apportioned, obviously, for utilities, and you paid yourself first, that's 70% altogether. There's 30% left over. So what you could do then is have what we call savings for spending. So things like emergencies. You might want to put 10% away for things like your car MOT or services. You're going to spend the money, but it's not an immediate thing. So you can put aside for Christmas. Well, that's not necessarily urgent, but things like if you drive a car, you need it for work, you need it serviced, it needs an MOT, for example. If a washing machine breaks down, for example, you need to be able to repair it, things like that. So you have savings for spending. I'm just going to rub this out. All right, so the next thing, get back to my page. So I'll just recap whilst I'm rubbing it out. So you pay yourself first. You allocate money, say 45 to 50% towards paying your utilities. Then you have some money for what we call savings for spending. Okay, then we have, you could have, it depends on your personal situation. You might have children, for example. So you may need, if they're young children, Sky TV or your satellite TV can be a lifesaver. So you might want to have to budget for that, or have what we call a fun account. If you have a family, whether it's, 5 to 10% that's remaining. So we had 70% which went towards obviously paying yourself, 50% utilities, okay, and another 10% for savings for things that you're going to be spending money on. So you're up to 80% already now. Then you got another 5 to 10% for fun, and you could also maybe have something like education, because you are your most prized asset. Your brain, your mind, your ability to increase yourself is the best investment you can ever make in you. If you don't make an investment in you, you can't get anywhere in life, okay? So educate yourself. Do something that's going to increase your knowledge and wealth so you can get a better job or start a business or whatever it may be. That could be 5%. If, you may not think that's necessary, having an education account initially. You may not think it's necessary to have a fun account. So these figures here are quite fluid. You can chop and change. You can maybe add a bit more. So if you... before you even have the final account and before the education account now, have your savings for an emergency. All right. And again, that should be 10% at least put away. So things like unforeseen circumstances, like tires being punctured, and you've already spent money to change them, and you've got to buy a brand new tire. It's expensive on a car. Washing machine breaking down, fridge breaking down. Things that need to be repaired, these things that are unforeseen. Just put some money aside to cover you for those things. So if you include that, I'll bring it to 90%. So then you can have, say, 5% for education and 5% for fun, right? Which brings it up to 100%. And now when we say having a surplus, let's go back and revisit what I mean here. So when we're talking about having a surplus, I hope I haven't lost anyone here. This 20% where you pay yourself first. All right, 10% could go to a tithe if you're religious, or you give money back, because the principle of giving means that you shall receive. If you're not in a religious mindset, for example, give to charity. Okay, but the act of giving does a lot of things. Number one, you're not going to give away unless you believe you have an abundance to give in the first place. So even if you feel broke, another way of actually trying to feel like you're rich or you're in abundance is by giving, because it makes you feel much better, and that's something you're gonna have to train yourself to do. Number two, it's a natural law and a spiritual law that whatever you sow, you shall reap. It's as simple as that, and I encourage you to research that for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. Okay. The other 10%, once you've given the first 10% away, the other 10% is what you call your financial freedom account. Now, I've got this as off of T. Harv Eker, so this is not my natural. I didn't make this up. This is trademarked for T. Harv Eker, but it bears repeating. Okay, this is your investment lump sum. This is how you're going to make more money for yourself. This is how you're going to increase your personal income to do what you need to do. Whether that means you save it in a high interest investment account, like an ISA that doesn't charge interest, or you want to start a business and you want to invest money to start a business, something to get you out of that hole that you're currently in at the moment. Okay, it starts here. Pay yourself. Think about yourself first. That can make such a massive difference, and it also will help you start to believe that you have money. There's nothing better than when you feel broke, you can look at an account and say, yeah, you know what, I'm not broke. Yeah, I do have savings. Yeah, I do have the ability to do something more with my life. With it, when you get back into university or, start a course that's going to help you progress yourself forward. Something, okay? But it's not touched by anything else. I don't care how desperate the situation is, unless it's going to progress you or propel you to build wealth. All right, and that's what I mean by the financial freedom account. So that's where the 20% where you pay yourself first, how you divide it up. And that's how you pay now a surplus. You've found 20% surplus to increase yourself. All right, which leads me on to the next subject, which is handling your emotions. Because trust me, there's nothing harder if you've not done it before, of budgeting money for a surplus. You're going to start to feel like, well, maybe I shouldn't pay myself 20%. Maybe I should pay myself 10%. And there's nothing wrong with that, to be fair. Start where you can and build yourself up. But don't neglect to do it. Okay? Your emotions are going to start thinking, oh, maybe I should dip into this money. Maybe I should dip into my savings accounts. Maybe I should dip into my emergency accounts. And then you're going to get back to the same position at which you were in before. Okay? So you have to manage your emotions and understand and have a vision. Okay? That's effectively what you need to have, a vision and a goal, all right, a purpose. Once you understand financially where you need to be, and now I've given you some of the tools of what you have to do to get started to get there, this will be handled, and you're going to have fun seeing yourself increase and getting yourself out of that financial hole that you might be in because of a lack of an ability to manage your money properly. All right. So the only final thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of the bigger picture is it's a really good idea to know where you are right now. And the only way you can do that is to get some kind of a financial statement on your personal finances. Yeah, just like every business has accounts, and you can assess where that business is financially through looking at the accounts. There's no point you starting to get to a position in life if you don't know where you're starting. It's like a sat nav. If you're going to have an end point, you need to have a starting point, and you need to know where that starting point is so you know what you got to do to reach that end point of your goal. another way of calling the financial statement is also a financial game plan. Okay, and there's a company called Genostar, if you're based in the UK, that does this for absolutely free to help families. And I can give you more information about that later on. If you're not in the UK, then I'm sorry I can't help you. But there are, I'm sure, other companies or places that you can find opportunity to get a personal financial statement to see where you are, or download something online. Okay, so that I want to conclude it there because I've spent about 20 minutes talking. If you've got any questions or any comments, please feel free to leave it in the comment box below. And enjoy this series of financial bootcamp videos. This is Richard Ansah, wishing you a pleasant financial life. Many thanks.